No. Wapola.
When are we going to? The one is done. Charlie, you are shooting. I'm also cool as a marrow. There too. You better come with your penny for me, yes, and properties have been lost because the police had to destroy the machines purchased by this young man in this community. So because of to the mosque. Hey, do Mama come and talk with this. And you can see blood all over his body. You can see blood all over his body. One of those who were shot. And now the dead body will now be taken. As a result, they kill him. Yeah. Hey, black so far. Hey, black were shot by the police here in the mining town of Asamama in the eastern region. And there you have it. The whole town of Asamama. This is the dead body. This is the dead body. Agor. So the dead body of Agor is now being carried to the morgue. So Asamama is on lockdown right now. People are wailing and crying. Multiple shots. There you have it. The young man. Blood oozing all over. And there you have it. That is the atmosphere here in the mining community of Asamama, where the police just killed 3, from what I've gathered, young miners at the mining site here after undertaking an operation to stop illegal mining activity in this community. Saturday.
Thank you. Military police,
So those disturbing scenes were captured by my colleague Latif Idris sometime last year when he visited the community of Asamama in the eastern region. Now, in the heat of the declaration of war on ending Galamsey by government, there appears to be a scramble over concessions between registered and illegal mining companies in the eastern region. Illegal mining of gold is rife there, where the operation has contributed to the destruction of water bodies and the dissipating of cocoa farms. The Chief Executive Officer of ATK Mining Company operating in Asamama in the eastern region has added his voice to government's call to end the illegality. John News' Latif Idris just returned from the region and reports some Galamseyers want government to legalize their operations.
So no Galamsey, no work for this area. No work for the whole Ghana.
The truth of the matter is that Galamsey have to end because we have people who are doing illegal mining. You see, they have to regularize the thing. Then those who have their papers will do correct job. After they have concentrated, they will reclaim the land and take the land. But now, people are just doing it because they want to do it because of the money. But one, we need the land. People who excavate, they will not reclaim them. The holes will be there. People are dying. So as for that one, for me, I am in support. And one thing I want the government to pursue is the Chamfa. Those people who are in the Bremo River. As for that one, they have to eliminate all of them. As for that one, they have to make sure that those people, because they are spoiling the water.
But you are here, you are the immediate people. What have you done as a miner yourself to end the level of confined?
As for ATK, we have tried our best. Oh, they came on Asamama because it's our concession. We tried to stop them and we stopped them. So for us, we have done our best. So the government has to come in because we can't fight it. The government have to support it so that we can move all of them. Because
so you think your brother's point here shouldn't stay? That's
no.
We can't end Galamsey.
We can end it. Because you see, every time, if the truth of the matter is, if the government comes, they will pursue it for 1 month, 2 months, and they will stop. That's why people are saying, oh, this one is just for fun, they will just stop and something. But we need a government who is serious, who can pursue it.
I want you to tell us the challenge you think the Chamfine operators pose to the water bodies in the land.
The challenge we have on the Chamfine operators, one, they cause damage to the water body. Two, when after dredging and we want to make a reclamation, we can't get the mainstream of the river. So that's the most important thing. And secondly, when the operation is on course, during the rainy season, the local areas, when they want to go to their farms, they don't get access to cross the river.
Why is that?
Because they have expanded the main stream. So that at first, the stream, they can even fell tree to the main stream, then the farmers pass on the log. But because of the activities, they have, expand the river. Some places you go and you get not about 400 or 500 meters wideness. So this is the most important thing.
That is with the Chamfine operation.
With the Chamfine operation.
Let's look at the Galamsey proper. How about that?
When we are talking about the Galamsey proper, you see, for the mining in general, the Galamsey people, when they are doing the work, because they don't have licenses, they just go to the land, quickly do the mining, take the mineral, then leave the pits.
So nothing like reclamation?
Nothing like reclamation. But anyone who have licenses know that if he didn't make the reclamation, maybe the EPA environmental people and the Mineral Commission will cancel the allowances. So it is necessary for the government, now that the government is serious about the illegal ones, we the legal ones, we support the government to go ahead and regulate even the legal one.
Exactly, that was going to be my next question. How about
the legal one? They have to regulate it so that we can do proper mining. After mining, we do the reclamation, we plant your tree, and even the piece that we leave it, we can make it as a fish pond and the rest.
So do you support government's war against Galamsey? Do you support?
100% support. 100% I support it. Because if the government didn't come in the nearby future, it would be in Ghana would be in trouble.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
You've seen it, and the situation has still not changed. I mean, in Asamama. I have in the studio with me Jejom Kweku Segbefia. He's a member of Occupy Ghana. Also with him is Carol Annan, who's the MD of the New Times Corporation. Also a member of the coalition against Galamsey, and they launched that yesterday. It's good to have you in the studio with me to discuss this very, very, very important subject. Thank you so much for being my guest. And we've seen the situation in Asamama. A few months after that incident where about 3 people were killed, as reported by my colleague, the situation still persists. A task force was sent in, but the people there are adamant. Now we say we want to fight Galamsey because we've seen the effects, terrible effects. Other people think we are too late, but well, it's better late than never. How do we bridge the gap? Because one gentleman looks into my colleague's camera and says, we need to eat. We need to survive. Why do you bring foreigners in here to benefit from what is ours, legally ours as citizens of this country? So they feel betrayed by the state, they feel betrayed by government, they feel betrayed especially by those of us who sit in Accra and make a lot of these comments. How do we bridge the gap? Let me start with you, Jejom. How do we bridge the gap in fighting Galamsey and also making sure that these people, some of them threatening attacks, you know, huge national security issue. I mean, absolutely. How do we deal with it effectively, once and for all?
So the first thing, and this is the Occupy Ghana position, we should have a no-holds-barred, non-negotiable attack on Galamsey. That's number one. We are not going to have to sit down and negotiate with anyone on Galamsey. It is off the table, and this should be the position of government. Yes, they've got to eat and all that, and this is actually what has led us this far. The idea that they needed to eat is what has led us into this trouble. And the influx of foreigners is because these same Ghanaians were the ones who were fronting for these foreigners. For example,
but for many of the locals in the story we just heard, and I have had the opportunity to visit a Galamsey site in Chebi, many of the locals tell you, well, we don't know. People sit in Accra and they bring these foreigners. We don't know about them.
But they don't, because when the minister signs a concession agreement, the person has to go back to the local communities and inform the traditional authority and the landowners appropriately. But that's the first thing. We need to stop Galamsey. We can't negotiate on that. We can't renege on that. A sustained assault on Galamsey is what is needed to stop it. That's number one. It is off the table. It's non-negotiable. Stop it.
How?
After you have done that,
how?
Oh, by moving in the coercive forces of the state. Yes, I'll come to that.
That's what resulted in what we saw in Asamama, 3 people losing their lives. And you should understand the security implications, because these people will say, you can't just come in here, shoot at us. And no, I'm just saying.
Yes. Why don't we talk about the security implication for having water bodies that are filled with silica, which gives birth to silicosis, tuberculosis. Okay, when you have that, it's basically what results is even the National Tuberculosis Program, okay, can't cover for silicosis TB. All right, you lose all your teeth, your bones begin to calcify, and you literally begin to die from the inside out. Let's talk about the effect on fish, for example. If fish, mercury-flavored fish, is not delicious, okay, or if you are exposed to mercurial cancer in any one of its forms, it will kill you. If you put cassava, okay, that is fed with water from mercury and silica-infested rivers into water, it turns blue. This kills people. So if we are looking at the cost-benefit analysis, the dangers to the rest of the country, the people who are not involved in Galamsey, is bigger than the amount of money that these people make. So that's number one. Get it off the table. Then after you have done so, then number two, you create the economic incentives necessary to keep people engaged.
Why
For
not
example,
create the economic incentives first?
But
then when you move in, the people are, you know, more relaxed than aggressive and in the defensive position.
Why don't we do that for the cocaine dealers? After all, it's economic reasons why they are involved, isn't it? But no, we haul their respective backside to jail. Why don't we do that from the armed robbers? Because people do tell you that, well, if I do this job, it's better than robbery. Okay, so clearly, if you're going to make that extension, then it means then that we might just as well let all the criminals go, because it always comes back to economics.
All right, Jason, let me pause, because I can see Carol nodding her head over there. So what is your take on this argument that, you know what, we understand that this is killing the environment, it's not helping us in any way, but let's put a human face to it. That's one side of the argument. And the other side of the argument is JJM saying, you know what, this is non-negotiable, just go in and stop it. What's your take?
Look, you have to start from the beginning, go to the bottom of it. We can decide to put a human face to it, but by the time we finish putting a human face to it, Ghana will be wiped out. It will require that some people, some lives will be lost in the process. But we have to weigh that against the total decimation of the country called Ghana. And I don't think you have anywhere else to go, or I have anywhere else to go. We will disappear because we will have nothing. The same lands that they are mining gold from are the same lands that we are planting our food and all that on. So they can mine the gold, but at some point they'll need food to eat. They'll need water to drink. Where are they going to get it? Are they going to import it with the money that they've made from the gold? Fine. But as you continue to erode the earth, where are we going? Because they are spoiling the surface water. They will go underground. Right now, for a lot of communities, you will find people are sinking boreholes. Why are they sinking boreholes? Because they are not getting water through their taps. Exactly. And if all of us sink boreholes, what's going to happen to what's in the ground? And then how are we going to plant? How are we going to survive? What we are doing, if we allow Galamsey to continue, is literally killing ourselves. And the people who are involved in Galamsey are killing us, who are not involved in Galamsey. We either speak up or we keep quiet and just let the country disappear. But what is even more upsetting is the fact that it is not only affecting us in Ghana. What we are doing has now gone into Côte d'Ivoire.
Before we go into the international implications as well, I just want to find out, so are you with him? It's non-negotiable. We should go in and stop it.
You see, if you say, the problem with Ghana is not that we don't have the laws. It's enforcement. So I think that we need to look at it from a sustained enforcement point of view. It's not enough to say, go in and stop them. Yes, we can stop them momentarily. But when we stop them, then what? Because they've been stopped several times. When they are stopped, we go back. We think it's, stopping them is enough. Then they go back to doing it. And when they come back, they are bigger and better at it. So each time we stop and we go back, the situation is worse. They have destroyed more of our water bodies, to the extent that, we have to shut down some water treatment plants because of the levels of chemicals that they use polluting the water and destroying the equipment. Look, everything that is owned by Ghana belongs to every one of us. So we should all be concerned.
So let's talk about the media coalition and the fight against Galamsey. What form is it going to take?
It's a multi-pronged media approach. We are going to have discussions, we're going to have interviews, we're going to hold roundtable discussions, and we are going to name and shame. With evidence. We are not going to just carelessly, say that somebody is doing this, but we are going to involve as many people as possible in Ghana who are in positions of authority, who can ensure that what we are doing, who will join the crusade. Because we are a country of people who, generally tend to follow people and tend to look up to people. And the people we look up to must lead the way. we in the media are part of the solution. You sitting here are part of the solution. The average Ghanaian walking in the streets is part of the solution, because every day they spend money to buy sachet water. And by the way, you don't even know where this water is coming from.
Exactly.
Every day they spend money to buy bottled water, because when I was a child, there was nothing like bottled water. It was so expensive. We drank water from the taps and it was fine. It should not be that these things become the norm rather than the exception, because it means something is not working. So what we are going to do is, from the print side, we are going to dedicate pages and focus, front page, inside pages, columns, features, name it, on Galamsey. For the electronic media, they're going to dedicate airtime to talking about Galamsey. We're going to go beyond that and do outreach programs to ensure that as many people as possible are first of all and foremost educated about it. Because I think when people become better educated about it, they will be more passionate
outreach
about
programs in the communities where
yes,
these... Okay.
Not only across the country.
Okay.
Media, we have over 300 registered radio stations. We have TV stations, so many of them. We have print media. What is our excuse? And we are going to join forces, because we know that these things cost money. So when we join forces and we set up the teams and we all contribute to funding them, and there's enough public interest, there are corporate organizations who are being critically affected by Galamsey and the effects of Galamsey, not Galamsey itself, but the effects of Galamsey, and therefore are prepared to put money where their mouth is to make sure that this happens. And this is not really a money thing per se. This is, our very existence is threatened. Let's not try and be nice about it. We've done that for too long.
So, JJ, this is what the media in Ghana have decided to do.
Right.
And it's a very laudable initiative, I must say. So, in the wake of all the news and the Ghana Water Company Limited telling us it costs them more now to treat water than it did previously, and we may have to import water at some point if we do not end this. What is Occupy Ghana also doing about it in the fight against Galamsey?
We just launched Red April. Okay.
Red April.
Yes, where everyone within this month is supposed, especially on most Fridays, to have a touch of red in their, in their attire to signify, one, our disgust, and two, our desire to see an end to Galamsey. And the problem basically has to do not so much with the illegal miners, but with legal miners also giving off concessions to illegal groups just so that they can evade taxes. Okay, so the problem is a big one. And what we are anticipating, and basically we identify the cause of the problem to be a lack of political will. There's the spinelessness showed by political leadership in addressing the problem is right where we are, okay? Because, for example, and I just had a conversation with Honorable Inusa Fuseni, who tells me that he went into the Pra River, saw over 25 machines illegally on the River Pra, and all he did was reprimand the DCE. And I'm like, what does that do? You understand? You're moving and you confiscate. Have you noticed that the number of Chinese people they arrest every single time is 5?
Interesting.
Never
I
6,
have to
never 9,
check.
always 5. But we know that, in fact, if you're walking on the Takwa Inswayem Road, the billboards are not in English. They are in Mandarin. They are in Chinese, okay, because they are selling to each other. How did they build the equipment? From some magazine, they built all this equipment right here in Ghana. So clearly, our laws have allowed them to do so. But the laws itself are tough. So what we are proposing, one, identify the problem from its root cause.
Don't we know the problem already?
It's political will. That's the major problem. Because how, for example, how is the, yes, before she comes in, how is the Minerals Commission going to move in without state actors getting involved? How is the EPA even going to know where the mines are without political involvement? You understand? So this is really what the challenge is. If we want Galamsey to stop, we can stop it in a year. But if we lack the political will, whatever we do, we'll come back to these same discussions as we did 20 years ago under Rawlings when the Galamsey issue read its head first time.
Carol wants to say something?
There are a number of institutions involved, as Jijom said, and we can't pretend that we don't know. I think that one of the difficult things in this country that we find hard to do as Ghanaians is to say things as it is. We always like to skirt around the issue and embellish it and, you know, try to, you know, smoothen the rough edges so that it looks good. If we continue to do that, it won't happen. Let's deal with this thing head on. And I tell you, if we're successful with dealing with Galamsey, other things will follow. But if we don't, it will continue. And so we need to get all the players involved. It can't be one person. And yesterday, the minister said it, that the president has set up a commission. It's made up of a number of ministers. There's defense, there's interior, there's the water and sanitation, there's environment, there's lands, there's information. We've got to make sure that we keep them on their toes about this. And it's not going to be a one day, no, it's not Red April, it's not Red 2017. It is red until Galamsey stops. And
continues. But you know, in your earlier submission, you mentioned that the effects have gone international and it's not only a national issue. Well, Ivory Coast is not pleased with the activities of illegal miners in Ghana. They claim the activities are affecting water bodies in their country. Minister of Environment, Science and Innovation, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, made this known at the launch of a media coalition against the Galamsey menace in the country.
In Abidjan from Wednesday to Saturday for a conference, and I was confronted with Galamsey almost immediately. I'll give you some documents when we do this place. The effect that the Galamsey in Ghana is having on the Côte d'Ivoire, because River Bia enters Côte d'Ivoire almost at the lower chair. And Tano enters the lagoon and is polluting the Abi lagoon, and so they cannot even treat water in some of their water treatment plants. So they took advantage of my presence and organized a press conference. So I met the Minister for Environment and the Mining Minister, and they asked me to speak to their people. And of course, I made it clear to them that we are very serious with stopping Galamsey. And I was able to convince them that indeed they are serious. And the good thing is that they always made reference to the good relationship between Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, and especially between Nana Akufo-Addo, our dear president, and President Alassane Ouattara. But then, as if to stress the point, after the meeting, it was around 12 o'clock, 3 p.m., I was called again, and I went to see the Prime Minister to assure him that we were doing something about it. So, you imagine, you know, the black water starts from somewhere between Mali and Burkina Faso. The red water originates from Burkina Faso. Imagine they were doing that in there, and we were not doing it here. They were polluting our waters. You can see the effect it will have on us.
There you have it. It's not a national problem. It's an international problem. And if you'd remember, sometime this year, my colleague Kwetenate produced a documentary called Rebel Land, where in Dollar Power and in Accra Bole, those are border towns in the northern region between Ghana and Ivory Coast, some gunmen believed to be pro-Gbagbo rebels are actually mining here in Ghana and making a lot of money. Do you think, Carol, that this Galamsey issue has taken an international face, and so we should have a more international approach to this? I mean, in terms of Ghana-Ivory Coast relations.
I think it's always been international in terms of the fact that even it's not just Chinese who are involved in it. Indians. We have enough information. It's not just Indians. There are people from Mali. There are people from Burkina Faso. There are people from Côte d'Ivoire who are also participating in it. So it was international right from them. But I think it is a cross-border thing. And from an environmental protection point of view, it is important that we begin to have conversations across the West African sub-region. It cannot be a conversation being had in Ghana. Because if you take the Volta River, I mean, it goes beyond Ghana. So if Burkina Faso starts doing that, what's going to happen to us? Look at what we do even when they open their dam, and then the water comes in and destroys our farms. So imagine, and they are using it to farm. I mean, if you look at the agricultural exports from Burkina Faso, it's amazing for a country that is partly desert. And therefore, if they were, and they've got gold in their country too, if they chose to allow mining, surface mining, to destroy their water bodies, how are they going to be able to produce what they produce? So we should learn lessons from best practices, and we should throw away the things that don't work for us and be more creative. This calls for us to think deeper, think outside the box. What can we do, and how do we help our people to make a livelihood, not by killing other people and eventually killing themselves, but by doing things in a sustainable manner. There are more sustainable ways of doing things. Look, El Salvador has just announced that they banned mining in their country, full stop. They've banned mining. A large mining company sued the government of El Salvador for $250 million, I think. They lost. We've got to protect human beings because it is human life. God gave us dominion over everything else that he created. So if we are going to allow those things to have dominion over us, then that's our problem. But we will not give up. As for that one, we will not. So we will fight it until we get to the bottom of it.
I like the passion with which you say we will not give up. So your final words, Jejom.
So there's a threat to national security to let Galamsey stand. And this is what the lesson I pick up from the Ivorian incursion into some of these. And they're not the only ones. In the Upper East and Upper West region, these are extremely remote areas where journalists can't ordinarily reach. Other nationals are mining our gold and messing it up. Just take a satellite view on Google Earth of Ghana. The only blue streak you would see is of Lake Volta. Everything else, from Ofin to Birim to Pra, is brown, and it empties all this sluggish brown mass into the ocean in the Gulf of Guinea. You can see the whole brown thing at the bay. You understand? Do the same for the Yangtze River in China, as blue can be. So why aren't they doing that in their country? Why are we allowing ourselves to be used to mess up ours? But the biggest risk in Galamsey has to do more with the fact that it will empower and embolden people one day to take up arms. They make enough money to actually get the equipment required to defend themselves. Recently, when some people decided to secede from Ghana for some funny reasons, we all went, we were all upset, right? If they have the wherewithal to do so and get these arms, do we have any idea how kind of Delta issue from Nigeria or Boko Haram we could potentially breed? Okay, so we need to look at it this way. And the final thing that can actually do, stop this problem is to have localized action at the local level. They are suffer companies. In the pre-colonial time, they were strong enough to stop their royals and people from being taken away from the Gold Coast as slaves. Why can't we do the same to protect our own environment and to protect our resources? What happened to the rivers which were gods for which you couldn't even go to them on some days? And I mean, suddenly, because the Galamsey people pour libation before they do this, so the gods are less angry, then I say they're less crazy. We should look at ways by which we can solve that. But then, as I mentioned earlier, stop it and immediately provide opportunity. Okay, for example, you can buy cashew in Nsoko because the Brazilian companies that buy the cashew, what they do is that, so they know how much on average an acre of cashew will give. So they already pay 10 to 15% deposit to the farmer. So whilst he waits for the cashew to bear fruit, he already has something to do. You understand? Why can't we do that for tomatoes so we can provide factories, pay people to grow these tomatoes and pay them the rest when they are all done? So like Carol said, there are innovative ways, but you must remove the bad options. Then you're going to have all the other opportunities to look at better options.
Thank you very much, Carol. Your final words quickly. We run out of time.
This is a national fight. It is not a partisan political fight. It is not about any political party, because each political party that has been in power in Ghana has tried and has not succeeded. So it is not a party thing. It is not a political thing. It is a national fight for the survival of our country. Let's stop Galamsey, and let's stop it now.
Thank you very much, Jejom, to Occupy Ghana. And I had Carol Annan. She's the MD for the New Times Corporation. Thank you so much for joining me to have this conversation. And like you said, this campaign is not ending until we see that Galamsey no longer exists. Thank you very much for joining me to have this conversation. And thank you for the initiative, the Media Coalition Against Galamsey. That will be our conversation today for Galamsey, but we sure will be talking about it, like I mentioned, until we see it ended. Away from Galamsey, personnel at custom checkpoints in the Ashanti region say they are battling the invasion of snakes and other reptiles at duty post in darkness due to the absence of electricity supply to them. The already poor state of the customs checkpoints in the region is being compounded by the situation. Operations of the Kumasi unit of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority is seriously under threat, though it exceeded its revenue collection target last year. Prince Apia visited these checkpoints and reports.
The Kubeasi checkpoint on the Accra-Kumasi highway is one of 5 under the Kumasi unit unconnected to the national grid. Officials resort to generators to illuminate their structures to work at night. For over a month now, the generator had broken down and personnel have had to use torchlight for vehicular and cargo inspection. Solar panels installed at the checkpoint have been non-functional for nearly 5 years. Customs officers struggle in darkness at the expense of their lives to check smugglers. Sometimes, drivers expected to be carrying smuggled goods in their trucks on vehicles defy orders to stop. They knock off these weak barriers and speed off, leaving the security personnel helpless. ACP Kwesi Ahiakpo as regional commander.
Extremely critical. It's crucial. You have a checkpoint at Kubeasi and there's no electricity. And if you've seen the kind of reptiles, snakes, scorpion and all the other things that officers kill at night, and they are using torchlight, I honestly, it is not only restricted to Kubeasi, but it's everywhere, every checkpoint, the lack of facilities. Meanwhile, that is where we stop all these vehicles you are seeing here and collect all the taxes for the state, and nobody seems to be bothered. Smugglers don't operate during the day. So if he's even coming and then he realizes that if in the checkpoint there's no light there, you are using torchlight flagging him to stop, he will not mind you. You see where most of our checkpoints are. It's all connected to the national grid. Yes, and we need to have these gensets in place, you know. And like I've always been saying, the checkpoints are not properly built. They should have been properly built with proper offices and proper residential accommodation, proper baggage hall. You see, but it's just a makeshift something. And I have never been impressed, and I will not pretend.
Meanwhile, Nestra, a subsidiary of Ashfom, has donated 13,000 Ghana cedis worth of a 6.5 kVA power generator to the Kumasi unit. Marketing manager Nana Yawa Ampemda Kwanchi pledges to build a proper barrier.
We came here in response to a request that was made to us concerning, a need to lighten up the various checkpoints for thefts. In fact, when you look at the places that they mentioned, that was mentioned in the letter, you could clearly see sometimes you're driving in the night and the place is just too dark, for a workload like thefts to, live within that condition to work. So our management decided that, okay, why not help? Because at the end of the day, it will speed up processes in their daily activities.
The gesture, however, is limited to the Kubeasi checkpoint. ACP Ahiakpo says support by corporate institutions is welcome, but it will not compromise its work.
Their companies sponsor Miss Ghana, companies sponsor Ghana 60. Does that mean that Ghana will not collect taxes or do business with them? So I don't think so. And if you are assisting with that mind, with strings attached, you better don't assist me. Because when push comes to shove, I will not bend the rules for you. No, I don't think that's why they are doing it. They are too smart businessmen to delve into that.
Prince Apia reporting.
Here in the studio, you're watching Joy News Desk. My name is Benis Abubedu. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Emmanuel Abuajiriafi will be telling us about the latest Moody's ratings of cocoa prices and its impact on the Ghanaian economy. Please stay with us.